Hello, everyone. Welcome to the preview show delivered by FedEx. I'm your host, Alan Cavanna. Back with me, as always, Marty Snider from NBC Sports. Marty, the long nightmare is over. Jimmie Johnson is a winner again in NASCAR. Did you really expect anything different at Charlotte from the 48 team?
I mean, I think we all expected them to contend for the win, but they've done that a lot this year and haven't been able to finish through with completing the win. You know, they've had the speed, but they haven't been able to get the win. You know, you call it a nightmare. I think that's really something, in my opinion, created by the media. They were never really worried about it. I know, but they were never really worried about either their spot in the chase, nor were they really worried about whether or not they would get a win. They knew it would happen eventually. They knew when you have a car that fast and you have a car that has that much speed, eventually, especially if you're the 48 team, you're going to find a way to win. So I don't think they were ever really worried about things. I don't think it was a nightmare for them. I think everybody else kind of built it up into this big thing. And yes, it would have been the longest winless streak of his career had he not won at Charlotte, but I don't think they were ever worried about it on the 48 team.
Not at all. And we're going to stick with the 48 because we are heading to Dover. Another track Jimmie Johnson and the 48 team loves to dominate. 8 career wins at the Monster Mile, of course, coming off the momentum of that win at Charlotte. And Marty, we talked to Jimmie Johnson and Chackenhouse, you and I both in Victory Lane, and you could see if it had ever gone away, that quiet confidence is there. They know they're a team to be reckoned with now. So should other teams be worried that the 48 is going to go on a run right now?
Well, I think anytime you go to Dover, you certainly have to worry about the 48 team and Jimmie Johnson, because you know that they can go there and they can really dominate the race, as you mentioned, and they can go there and lead a lot of laps and win. But I think, yes, there's a little bit of a quiet confidence. I think, yes, they could go on a run here, but I got a sense that they were not happy. I got a sense that they were really glad to get the win. They're glad to get it out of the way, but they are a team that they still feel like they have a lot of work to do. They're a team who still feels like that, you know, at certain places they have a lot of speed, at certain places they're able to win, but they're not able to go and dominate like they have in the past, and they're still trying to figure out this rules package. I think the next several weeks are critical for a lot of race teams, because now we're going to a bunch of new tracks, a bunch of different type of tracks. You can look at Dover, you look at Pocono, you've got a road course coming up, all these unusual racetracks coming up where we really haven't tried this new setup package. And I think a lot of guys are really interested to see how this is going to work out, how they're going to stack up to where they did in the past. So I think there's still a lot of question marks for the 48, actually. I think they're still a little bit worried about where they are as a race team. I think they feel like they need to get a little bit better to be a championship contender.
Another team with some question marks, the 4 team. Not a lot of people remember who finished second, but I guarantee you Kevin Harvick fans are starting to remember, because for 2 weeks in a row at Charlotte, the 4 team had the best car, if not the fastest car, at the end of the race, and for 2 weeks in a row, they finished second and did not get that win. And Marty, also for 2 weeks in a row, we've heard very public comments from the driver about his pit crew not holding up its end of the deal. So, I mean, it seems like we've seen this all year. They've had the best car, but the result just isn't there at the end.
Well, in talking to Kevin, I think he certainly feels like they've got to get some things cleaned up on pit road, because they've got to get organized where they're not costing themselves wins on pit road. Clearly, speed-wise on the racetrack, they're one of the best cars right now. But right now is not when you have to worry about winning a championship. You have to worry about winning a championship in October and November. That's when you really have to worry about winning a championship. And I think Kevin Harvick and his team will get it cleaned up eventually. I think they'll get to a point where they're much better on pit road, but this is obviously an issue for them. And earlier in the year, we were talking about the mechanical things. They seem to have all that shored up now. Now they need to get pit road cleaned up a little bit, and they will. They'll get it cleaned up, and I think the frustrating part for Kevin and Rodney Childers is that's a little bit out of their control. Their guys need to get better. They've done what they need to do to win. Now their guys on pit road need to do what they need to do to win.
Got to keep that driver happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this week's social poll, there are 3 drivers in the top 10 in the Sprint Cup Series standings who are still without a victory. So, of those without a victory, who's most likely to get their first win in Dover this weekend? Matt Kenseth, Brian Vickers, or Ryan Newman? You can vote at NASCAR.com/social. We want to hear from you. So, Marty, it's time for us to pick some winners.
Let's do it.
Who's winning in Dover?
I'm going to go this weekend with Kyle Busch. I really feel like that the Gibbs cars have found something over the last few weeks, and we talked about this in the preview show last week, where we saw that the Gibbs teams had gotten a little bit better. When you talk about Dover, you look at Kyle Busch, how dominant he's been at that racetrack in the past couple of years. He's been very good. He and Jimmie Johnson have really been the guys who have been the guys to beat there. I think Kyle Busch and Gibbs finally get a little bit extra speed. I mean, obviously Kyle has the win already, but I think they find themselves in victory lane this weekend.
You take Kyle, I'll take Jimmie. Jimmie Johnson, he could drive a dump truck at Dover and probably still win. It's a rhythm racetrack, and he will find that rhythm. I don't care if it's Gen 6, Gen 5, no ride height. he has what it takes to win at Dover. Jimmie Johnson is going to win there because just showing up, he gets a top 10 just for showing up there at Dover. So
as I always say on the show, you get first pick. So there you go. Of course, he takes the layup, as always.
Hey, I think he can win a few in a row now. Well, Kyle Busch, Jimmie Johnson, may the best pick win. Marty, always good having you here. Appreciate it. And have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the preview show delivered by FedEx.